I inherited this heart-shaped birthmark.
I got high cheekbones.
I'd like to thank my dad for these enormous ears.
I got a secret tooth.
We all inherit something, like the risk for breast cancer.
A tendency for high blood pressure.
Or the potential for colon cancer. DNA can affect your health too, so take action. Join MUSC's Community Health Research Project. Visit nrdnasc.org.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Oh, my child brought me coffee and I love her. Welcome, it's Eric Erickson here. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. Always happy to have you. We've got to discuss Hunter Biden. If this were a Trump child, the National Press Corps would be going to the doctor right now with priapism because it would have lasted for more than 4 hours. It's remarkable how they've managed to avoid, as best they can, telling us anything about Hunter Biden. But now some outlets are starting to pay attention, including Business Insider, with the headline, Hunter Biden's gallery sold his art to a Democratic donor friend who Joe Biden named to a prestigious commission. On the campaign trail, President Joe Biden pledged there would be an absolute wall between his official duties and his family's private business interests. The Biden White House repeatedly made reference to that wall when responding to questions about the fledgling art career of Hunter Biden, the president's son. In 2021, when a New York art gallery debuted Hunter Biden's paintings with an asking price as high as $500,000, the White House said his team had a process for carefully vetting buyers and that their identities were known only to the gallery and not to Hunter Biden himself. The messaging seemed to suggest that his art patrons came from a rarefied universe of collectors who had nothing to do with the hurly-burly of politics. Neither of those things has turned out to be the case. Hunter Biden did, in fact, learn the identity of two buyers, according to three people directly familiar with his own account of his art career. And one of those buyers is indeed someone who got a favor from the Biden White House. The timing of their purchase, however, is unknown. The buyer is Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali, a Los Angeles real estate investor and philanthropist. Hirsch Naftali is an influential California Democratic donor and who gave $13,414 to the Biden campaign, $29,700 to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. In 2022, she hosted a fundraiser headlined by Kamala Harris. Insider has obtained internal documents from Hunter Biden's gallery showing that a single buyer purchased $875,000 worth of his art. The documents do not indicate the buyer's identity, which is unknown. In July 2022, 8 months after Hunter Biden's first art opening, Joe Biden announced Hirsch Naftali's appointment to the Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad. It's unclear whether Hirsch Naftali's purchase of Hunter Biden artwork occurred before or after the appointment. Membership on the commission is an unpaid position filled by campaign donors, family members, and political allies. There are questions. The drip, 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 drip. If this were the Trump family, would the media be asking more questions, less questions, or behaving the same? I would submit to you, I mean, you all know the answer. It's obvious. They would be crucifying the Trump administration as a bastion of corruption. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. In March 2015, Hunter Biden's cousin, Missy Owens, inquired about whether her mother could receive a presidential appointment. Emails from a copy of his laptop show. I didn't know she wanted to do that. Eric asked for one of these the day before the election in 2008, Hunter wrote back. You know better than me what any real and interesting appointments. Let's go through the list with Steve and see what makes sense. I don't know how much 2016 and nepotism plays into it. The Eric in the emails appears to be Hunter Biden's longtime business associate, Eric Schwerin, who was appointed to the commission in 2015. President Biden has denied any speaking to his son about his overseas business dealings. Former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki dismissed ethics concerns about Hunter's art career in 2021, saying that any offer out of the normal course would be rejected out of hand. But he sold at least $1.3 million worth of his artwork. They said at the time he was a private citizen. Now it gets even worse. This is also from the Washington Free Beacon. Hunter Biden associate Devin Archer has testified before a federal grand jury regarding the Biden family and plans to be interviewed by the House Oversight Committee next week. Matthew Schwartz, who represents Archer, told the Washington Free Beacon that Archer has met with numerous investigators. Devin Archer believes strongly in the rule of law and the democratic system and is prepared to answer the committee's questions, just as he has already answered similar questions from a federal grand jury, the Department of Justice, and several other government agencies. According to the Post, Archer plans to tell the Oversight Committee he was with Hunter Biden on more than 24 occasions when the embattled first son called his father during meetings with foreign business partners. The Post reported Archer will testify Hunter Biden called his dad on speakerphone during one meeting they had in December 2015 with the owner of Burisma Holdings, the Ukrainian energy company that paid Biden more than $80,000 a month and paid Archer also more than $80,000 a month. The report marks a major development in the Biden family saga. The president has denied even ever speaking with his son about his foreign business ventures. The report comes after Republicans released an FBI report that showed a confidential source told the FBI in 2020 that Burisma owner Mykola Zolkiewski claims he paid $10 million in bribes to Hunter and Joe Biden for political favors. Drip, 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 drip. And now from the Federalist. When the Pittsburgh FBI office briefed the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office on evidence implicating Hunter and Joe Biden in a bribery scheme, the agents also told the Delaware team they had corroborated several aspects of the confidential human sources claims. An individual familiar with the briefing told the Federalist. On Thursday, Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, released the FD 1023 summary of a confidential human sources reporting that the Ukrainian oil and gas company Burisma paid Hunter and Joe Biden each $5 million in bribes so the then vice president would protect Burisma from all kinds of problems. Those bribes were in addition to the more than $4 million in total paid to Hunter Biden and his business partner Devin Archer for sitting on Burisma's board of directors. The Federalist has now learned that the Pittsburgh FBI office has corroborated several details contained in the FD 1023 as part of the intake process that former Attorney General William Barr established before the election under the leadership of the Western District of Pennsylvania's then U.S. Attorney Scott Brady. Significantly, in briefing the Delaware U.S. Attorney on the results of their office's screening of evidence related to Ukraine, the Pittsburgh FBI agents told the Delaware office they had corroborated multiple facts included in the FD 1023. Following the late June 2020 interview with the CHS, the Pittsburgh FBI office obtained travel records from the CHS, and those records confirmed the CHS had traveled to the locales disclosed in the FD 1023 during the relevant time. The trip included a late 2015 or early 2016 visit to Kyiv, Ukraine, a trip a couple of months later to Vienna, Austria, and travel to London. Y'all, again, what if this were the Trump administration? The CHS is a confidential human source, and the confidential human source traveled to Ukraine, Austria, and the United Kingdom. The Pittsburgh FBI agent's job was to vet information to make sure it was not Russian disinformation. They vetted the information, they determined it was not Russian disinformation, and they forwarded it to the Delaware U.S. Attorney, who really didn't seem to do a whole lot with it. We now have from multiple angles, from confidential human sources, from Devin Archer, it seems through implication in press reports, that the Biden family was taking money from Burisma, not just Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden as well. We now have a pattern of Democratic political donors buying Hunter Biden's paintings and getting nominated and placed on commissions. What if this were Donald Trump? What if this were Donald Trump? We know how this would go if it were Donald Trump. We know how it would go if Eric or Don Jr. decided to become a painter and political donors started buying their paintings. I got a friend in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a brilliant, brilliant artist. His name is Steve Pinley. Steve Pinley paints very fast, and he's absolutely brilliant. I've got multiple paintings of his in my house. He kindly gifted them to me. He's a generous soul. He is a wonderful, wonderful artist. And in multiple profiles, Steve Pinley has been maligned by progressives for the quality of his art, which is gorgeous artwork. He's hired to paint all over the world, but they've maligned him because he's a known conservative. He's painted for Donald Trump. He's painted for Rush Limbaugh. I know he's painted for Rush Limbaugh because I'm the one who gave Rush Limbaugh the Steve Pinley painting. He's painted for Kevin McCarthy. He's painted for Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and other Republicans, and he's maligned, and his artwork is brilliant. He is a brilliant artist and a wonderful person, and they maligned him. Hunter Biden's art kind of sucks. It's amateurish. And he's sold over $1 million. And members of the press have praised the quality of Hunter Biden's paintings, that they can't bring themselves to say a nice thing about Steve Pinley, an award-winning artist who travels the world to paint for major corporations, the Georgia, the College Football Hall of Fame, Coca-Cola, and others. They can't bring themselves to say something nice about a guy like that. But Hunter Biden and his garbage art, they love it. And they can't question Joe Biden. They won't question Joe Biden. They won't question the family. There have actually been more questions raised in the press over Steve Pinley getting paintings to Republicans than there have been to Hunter Biden. If you ever, by the way, get a chance to go to Atlanta, to the Atlanta History Museum, right down the street is Steve Pinley's studio, and it's just brilliant. He's got this one of Washington crossing the Delaware. I covet that painting relentlessly. It is a massive, massive painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, and it's beautiful. You'll not see anything like that from someone of the caliber of Hunter Biden, whose artwork is far inferior, but you'll see far more praise of Hunter Biden, because the media is there to protect the Bidens. The media is there to protect the left. The media is there to protect the Democrats. The media is scared to death of the second coming of Donald Trump. They're scared of the Republicans. They're scared of Ron DeSantis. My gosh, Nicole Wallace had a complete meltdown on television last night over Ron DeSantis. Listen to this.
That was Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis defending, but not taking a lick of responsibility for his state's outrageous, inhumane, whitewash new education standards. We broke the news here on Friday, specifically the requirement in Florida for middle school teachers there to instruct this, quote, how slaves develop skills which, comma, in some instances, comma, could be applied for their personal benefit, end quote. Slavery. We know that in between the lines of DeSantis' claim that he, quote, wasn't involved in the disgraceful, appalling suggestion, despite his own law against wokeness.
She's sick. She's afraid. She's appalled. She's sad. She's angry at Ron DeSantis. They're scared to death of Republicans winning in 2024. They got to circle the wagons around Biden. They got to circle the wagons around Hunter Biden. If this was Trump, they'd be all over it. It just shows you how the media has a vested interest so often, the editorial level, of steering things away from the Democrats. It's why so few people trust them. They can't even be objective about Hunter Biden's artwork, let alone about where the money's coming from, who it's going to, and what other bribes are being paid, if any at all. They will not go there. They will not touch it. Just ask yourself, what if this was Trump? And you can realize just how dishonest the media has become. Did you know China has made it a priority to teach students financial literacy starting in preschool? Financial literacy isn't taught in our elementary schools, and parents lack the resources to teach it at home. American kids are yet again being left behind. Now there's a great way for parents and grandparents to help the kids they love learn about finance, thanks to the Sensibles, and at bcs-kids.com. The Sensibles are a team of animated superheroes who help kids age 6 to 12 develop smart money habits in a fun way. bcs-kids.com was created to channel this multimedia resource to kids everywhere. Buy a subscription for your loved ones, and each month they'll get a Sensibles kit in the mail with an entertaining DVD, comic book, and activities. Digital subscriptions are also available. They'll also get access to an interactive website with a library of lessons, fun activities, and more. Want 20% off the monthly subscription costs? Visit at bcs-kids.com. Enter the promo code ERIC, my name, ERICK. It's the sensible thing to do. Subscribe today at bcs-kids.com. Welcome, it's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425. To the phones we go. Craig, you're up next. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Probably better than I deserve, but
good.
God is good. If you remember in 2016 when it looked like Cruz would be the only one who had a chance of catching Trump, and in a last-ditch effort, he announced who his VP pick would be, which I thought was a good move, but he made two big mistakes. One, he waited too late in the game for it to make a difference. And two, instead of like Marco Rubio, he went with Princess Fiona.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, what if DeSantis did the same and say 4 or 6 weeks before the voting actually started, him and Tim Scott come out and said that it would be a DeSantis-Scott ticket that would help him consolidate some of the vote, and they could cover twice the ground with their message. And if they did it before the voting started.
Yeah, so a lot of people have sort of gravitated towards a DeSantis-Scott ticket. I know a lot of people who are there. The problem is Scott is going up in the polling, and if he makes it to Iowa, there's no way he's going to say, well, I'm going to settle for the number 2 slot here. There's so much ego in all of the dynamics at play here. Nobody wants to drop out. In fact, we've seen a lot of people get in because they were no longer intimidated by DeSantis. DeSantis, by the way, has begun laying off campaign staff. A third of the campaign gone today. That's breaking news happening here. The Politico reporting that the DeSantis team is laying off a third of the staff. The reason is because they spent so much out of the gate making a massive play. They hired everyone they possibly could hire, but now they they didn't shut everybody out. So he's resetting the campaign and going for more nimble staff. This is from Politico. The cuts, which were confirmed by advisors, will amount to 38 jobs shed across an array of departments. They'll include the roughly 10 event planning positions that were announced several weeks ago, in addition to the recent departures of 2 senior DeSantis campaign aides, Dave Abrams and Tucker Obenshain. Following a top-to-bottom review of our organization, we've taken additional aggressive steps to streamline operations and put Ron DeSantis in the strongest position to win the primary, says Janera Peck. Governor DeSantis is going to lead the great American comeback. The expanded cuts are the latest sign the team is pivoting to slim down operations amid concerns over finances. They raised $20 million during the second quarter, but it spent a good chunk of the money. They're going to have to make cutbacks. Ethan Ilan is now the digital director, has become the deputy campaign manager. My friend Cody Hall, who's an advisor to Governor Brian Kemp, has been added as a senior communications advisor. So they're hiring a few people. They're shaking up the staff. They're trying to become more nimble. There's been growing donor frustration. And a lot of people who had been looking at DeSantis are trying to look at Tim Scott. They're tired of the woke stuff. If I could give the DeSantis campaign one piece of advice, it's stop talking about the woke stuff. Stop going on conservative podcasts. Start doing mainstream media interviews about the economy. Focus on the economy. Tell people you have a plan to get America working again. Focus on that. We know about the wokes. It's time to move on. Hello there, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you're new to the program, if you text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to the number 33777, so you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, I'm going to send you back a series of links pretty quickly, so you can follow me on social media, Instagram in particular. You can get my daily email. You can get the podcast, the live stream, all that stuff. Now, I prefer you listen right here on this radio station because you get the breaking news live and timely here on the station and the weather and everything else. But if you got to listen to delay or something, I get it. I want to make it able for you to access the show. I want to go off the beaten path because so confession. Confession is good for the soul. We've had a series of several slow news weeks, and instead of trying to get into all the intricacies on campaigns and the like in politics, I know conservative talk radio because I listen to conservative talk radio, and I find a lot of it iterative. I find a lot of it derivative, and I find that it's very predictable. You know who's going to say what, you know the stories, everything's going to be the outrage machine. And I'm fascinated by so much other stuff out there. And I find a lot of the dwelling on the minutia of Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family and the January 6th stuff and on and on. I find it boring. I don't find it very edifying. And I'm fascinated by some of the other cultural stories that are happening in America right now that then don't get attention on talk radio or in conservative spaces, and stuff I feel very strongly is important and that we should think about. And so I was going to talk about Joe Biden. And then I there's a story out of Arizona about a gay activist group that started a small school for trans kids with school choice. And hopefully I can talk about that tomorrow. But I saw this story today. This is fresh in my head. And I want to talk about this because I'm fascinated by this as well. And we're hearing a lot of buzz about it. You're going to keep hearing about LLMs. Now, LLMs are not a business form. So an LLC is a limited liability company. An LLM is a large language model. And there are some very famous large language models out there, like, for example, ChatGPT and OpenAI. They are designing computer interface systems that seem very, very smart and capable of doing things that other former computer interfaces and websites and searches, browsers and things like that they can't do. So, for example, I'm in ChatGPT right now, and I'm going to say, write me a 5-line poem about cookie dough. That's it. Write me a 5-line poem about cookie dough using iambic pentameter. So that's it. I've asked ChatGPT. Write me a 5-line poem about cookie dough using iambic pentameter. In soft embrace, sweet cookie dough does mold, its tender touch a joyous treat untold. Each morsel whispers secrets to the tongue, a dance of flavors neath the moonlight spun. Indulgence found the heart and taste buds hold. There it is, a 5-line poem about cookie dough using iambic pentameter. Now, if you don't know what iambic pentameter is, if you don't remember your class, it's a line of verse with 5 metrical feet, each consisting of 1 short syllable followed by 1 long syllable. For example, 2 households, both alike in dignity. So 2 households, both alike in dignity. 5 metrical feet, 1 short, unstressed syllable, followed by 1 long syllable. There you go, iambic pentameter. And ChatGPT can process it very quickly and got me what I wanted. And I can also go in and say, hey, explain to me what's going on in the world. Explain to me the rules of football. Explain, and it'll break it down and it'll be easy to understand. Here's what you have to know about large language models, though, including ChatGPT. These things are not sentient. They are not aware. What a large language model does is it takes in copious information from the internet. It takes in books that have been scanned. It takes in Wikipedia entries. It takes in everything across the internet. It gobbles it all up, and it does analysis on how words are used and how prepositional phrases are constructed, and it takes in basic grammar rules, and then it can process the information back to you in a way that you want it, but it's information that people have created that is then repackaged and reprocessed through a large language model, a large amount of language, to be able to put out what I want. And so it sounds very smart, but it's just a computer program. I say all of that to get to this piece of The Atlantic from Ross Anderson. The headline is, does Sam Altman is the creator of OpenAI that does ChatGPT, does Sam Altman know what he's creating? Listen to this. Sam Altman told me at this point it might be prudent to try to actively develop an AI with true agency before the technology becomes too powerful, in order to get more comfortable with it and develop intuitions for it if it's going to happen anyway. It was a chilling thought, but one that Turing Prize winner and former Google AI chief scientist Geoffrey Hinton seconded. We need to do empirical experiments on these things to try to escape control, Hinton told me. After they've taken over, it's too late to do experiments. Putting aside any near-term testing, the fulfillment of Altman's vision of the future will at some point require him or fellow travelers to build much more autonomous AIs. When OpenAI's co-founder and chief scientist Ilya Sutskever and I discussed the possibility that OpenAI would develop a model with agency, he mentioned the bots the company had built to play Dota 2. They were localized to the video game world, Sutskever told me, but they had to undertake complex missions. He was particularly impressed by their ability to work in concert. They seemed to communicate by telepathy, Sutskever said. Watching them had helped him imagine what a superintelligence might be like. You got that? He thinks they use telepathy, or it looked like they used telepathy. They had agency. So agency, let me talk about this in theological terms because it's easier to understand what they mean. I come from a Reformed Christian background, a Calvinist background, where we do not have free will per se, we have agency. What free will Christians mean is I get to determine what I wish to do. The Reformed faith would say that's agency, that our will is bound to sin given the choice. Unless God acts on you, you're bound to sin and choose sin, but you do have agency in your life. You choose to get out of bed in the morning. You choose when to go to bed. You choose what to eat. You choose when to eat. You choose how to eat. You choose where to eat. You choose what to drive. You choose where you're driving to. You have agency. You have volition. You make these choices yourself, and they want to design a computer that can make those choices for itself, and they're breathing life into it. This isn't life. It's not life. It is, in my mind, it's not a coincidence that the people who reject the divine believe they can create digital life. That the rise of the killer robot is upon us by people who do not believe in God. G.K. Chesterton, the Catholic philosopher, said, the danger in not believing in God is not that you'll believe nothing, but that you'll believe anything. We're hearing more and more about people's obsession with artificial intelligence. But they're not really creating artificial intelligence. They're creating things that seem to look like they're thinking, seem to look like they're operating with telepathy, but they're really not. They're processing zeros and ones. They're processing binary code. They're processing binary code created by a human being. And when they spit out the language, they're processing the language that was written by human beings that is put out by human beings, that is processed by a computer and rearranged based on a computer program written by a human in order to put out something that looks new and unique and distinct, but is really just a word package of large language models repackaged and generated based on the prior works of others to become something that is iterative and new. But it's new not in distinct ways, but it's new in an iteration of something someone already wrote. It's not a godlike power of humans to create this, and it's not a living being. It's designed to make it look like it's a living being. It's not going to reproduce itself. And you can unplug the machine. But you know where this is headed. We're going to get into ethical discussions of, can you unplug the machine? It appears to be alive. We have it's not breathing. It's not reproducing in living ways, but it's got a computer. And I mean, is it any different than a computer virus taking over something else? How do you know? What's amazing to me, though, is at the end of the day, these secular people who do this somehow believe they can create a life on a computer and it must be protected and preserved, but God help the fetus in utero. You find bacteria on Mars, we must move heaven and earth to preserve that life, but the baby? No, not the baby. A computer that is not alive, that does not think, but is designed in such a way to give off the vibe that it does. We got to figure out ways to protect it, preserve it, expand it, and grow it. But to heck with the baby. Nobody likes the babies. We can kill the babies, but the computer, we got to protect the computer. And it's all these people who haven't done anything. They've created a marvelous, intuitive, wonderful, fun-to-use computer program. And at the end of the day, it's still just a computer program. But the media and the programmers and the technologists have convinced themselves they are greater than they are, that they themselves have become gods, and they have created new life. And that new life is a string of ones and zeros on a computer. It cannot walk by itself. It cannot generally talk by itself. It does not eat. It does not procreate. It does none of these things, but somehow we're going to imbue it with life because it surprises us of our own genius that we've been able to pull this off. And somehow we decide we are now gods, the creators, and creation itself makes creation, which I don't think is so. But then the other thing creeps in. When you read the Quran, when you read the Bible, read the Old Testament, read the New Testament, the Creator is never scared of his creation. He may not like it. He may want to get rid of it. He may want to start over. But he's never scared of his creation. But you read Frankenstein. Frankenstein's the doctor, not the monster. People mischaracterize that. Frankenstein's monster is Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein gets scared of the monster. The creators of the AI get scared of the AI. They're afraid of what the AI can do. They're afraid of their creation. God Almighty never gets scared of his creation. It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition there. An actual creator does not fear his creation, but a creation that creates is fearful of its creation lest it be replaced in the creative order. I just think I'm fascinated by this topic because we are going to hear so much more about this, and so much of the media is going to unreasonably be worshipful of what's being done here, as if these people are somehow gods. Interestingly enough, putting the media out of business, letting these things do more. But here's the catch at the end of the day. If you read what ChatGPT writes, if you read what the new ones by other companies are able to produce, all it's doing is rearranging the words and ideas of others. It comes across as colder. It comes across as less human. It comes across as not quite right. There's this thing called the uncanny valley that when you do digital art and it becomes too close to human, it looks more unnatural than the cartoon. It looks freakishly off-putting, and this is the same with the text. We're starting to learn. We can recognize what ChatGPT is doing and outputting because it lacks humanity. It lacks soul. It lacks real creativity in what it's done. And yet, all of these people, particularly secular atheists, are convinced they can create new life in the form of a computer program. And you and I are going to have to remind ourselves over and over and over and over, and they should remind themselves, y'all, it's just a computer program. And if you don't like it, delete it or unplug it. But you don't have to create it or give it any sort of indwelling of life because it is not alive. You're not a god. None of us are. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Okay, this one's for y'all in Arizona. I've dealt with Connecticut today. I've dealt with Ohio today. Now those of you out in Arizona. There is in Phoenix, they are developing what they're calling a queer micro school. So the Republicans in Arizona passed school choice, a voucher program where parents will get money that the state would send to local schools. The parents instead will get it, and they can redirect it to schools of their choice. And so a group of alphabet gang activists out there have started what they're calling a queer micro school. It'll be a safe place for gay and trans kids to go be educated instead of in the public schools of Arizona. And they'll use the voucher program to fund it. A gay rights group is starting it. And activists in Phoenix will help assist in the education, and the kids who come will be in a safe space. And I am all in favor of it. 1,000%. I think if a parent has a child who is gay or trans and doesn't want them in the public school system and wants to put them in a safe space with other trans kids or gay kids so that they can get an education free of what they think might be bullying or something else, let them do it. This is the genius of school choice. I don't have to send my kid there. You don't have to send your kid there, but they get to send their kid there, and the free market works it all out. I think it's fantastic. It's a model for everyone, and it should show the left that school choice is nothing to be scared of. What's so interesting about this package is it's mostly religious parents who support school choice. And these stories about the school in Arizona are being used of, see what happens if you give vouchers. Look what the gays are going to do. Yes, look at what the gay rights and the transgender activists are going to do. God bless them. I love them for coming up with this idea. It should show the innovation of the free market and school choice and the voucher program. You know what? We should allow the religious to do this as well. If you want to go to a school that shares your beliefs and use school vouchers to make a micro school just for your religion, you should be able to do it as well. But I have a suspicion that the activists who applaud the queer micro school, as they're calling it, won't be so happy with the religious micro school, will they? Funny how that works. I just think that this shows how flexible voucher programs can be for education. And these kids who feel like they need to be in a safe space with other kids going through the same issues can be together to get a good education. We should lovingly embrace this idea. There's not a single Christian listening to me right now who should be upset that gay rights activists are using school voucher money to fund safe spaces for gay and trans kids. The only problem is that you as a religious Christian person should be able to do the same thing with your kids. And I suspect the other side won't want you to in the name of separation of church and state. They should allow it. By the way, this is just another example of how innovative the voucher programs for school choice can be. And it's why every parent everywhere should support voucher programs so you can get your kid the best education for your child. And Arizona is leading the way. Good for them. More of this, please. Please, more of this. More innovation, more vouchers, more school choice around the country, please.
Hey, guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun, too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino-style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere, and each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.